Hey, Absolute Packer fans, this is Elliot. I wanted to just give a brief overview of how I put together an episode of the Absolute Packer podcast. So, to start with, when we're recording, we silence all our devices, which I'm notoriously bad at. We utilize a piece of software, costs a little bit of money, but I use it for other business purposes most of the time. This is like a 5% case of what I use this for. But it's some call conference software that records calls. So we record a lot of our meetings for note taking and so on in business. And I thought, well, boy, it's actually really easy. So let's just try it for the podcast. And it's actually worked out pretty well. We've been doing that for about a month now using Uberconference. And it gives me really just a single MP3 file that I download here. The quality's fine. It's not amazing, but it's not poor. We tried some other things. We used Zencastr for a while, which when it worked great. The sound quality was fantastic when it worked. And probably due to no fault of Zencastr, that was a piece of software that ran in the browser and used the web browser to record the calls. And just through quirks of the internet, quirks of random things on the three different computers that were being used, we'd get some drop-offs and some quality issues. Quality would be great, but then it'd be terrible. So then we had to resort to doing some call recording anyway, which was of lower quality, and this just kind of splits the difference. So I've been very happy with this. The one thing that it doesn't allow for is independent editing of the three of us, the three of our voices. So it's much harder to edit out where we're talking over each other. But for this show, that's actually part of the fun. So anyway, then to put the episode together, I have a template that I use in Adobe Audition. And it's just got some simple tracks in it. If you weren't aware, the opening and ending music tracks were created by Andy and his band in the past. So this is Adobe Audition. It's from the same guys that make Photoshop. And I create a multi-track session. And I usually give it a name. So like our current one is episode 37. This is already out. And then I just make sure to put it into my production folder here. That's a key for later. And it already exists. So actually I'm going to just add a B. I normally don't do that, but we just want to have a second one. So you see that I have just a couple of tracks here. So I have music track that has the two music tracks that Andy created. And then I just have those silly sound clips at the end with Marcus Brooks and just a few other like silly things that I've collected along the way that I just close out all the podcasts with. So then I have a soft start marker and a hard start marker. So the hard start is basically when the music ends. Soft start is where you hear us kind of rambling over the top of the music, where we're saying, okay, you ready to go, Andy? And then Andy typically does the intro. So all I do here is I grab this MP3. So let me just show it in my file system, and then I will grab this, switch back to Audition, and then I will usually drop it actually right at the beginning, because when we get on the call, usually there's a significant portion where we're talking with each other, catching up on Andy's health problems and just mindless bantering, because we're friends. So that's it's kind of fun for us, but sometimes there's things that don't really fit into the podcast. So we mostly leave that out. So now what Audition is doing is it's converting that lower quality MP3 into a higher quality WAV file, which you can't get better quality out of a lesser quality file. But if we do any other editing on here, it maintains that quality. So now there will be a whole bunch of banter in here. So my job then is to find where Andy actually starts. Okay. And so usually that is where there's a little spike in the talk.
That's like slash. That's
Okay.
something I would post, where I was video.
So anyway, I find where that is. Let's just, for the sake of demonstration here, I'm going to just trim this down to about the 10-minute mark. So I've gone about 7 minutes there. And then let's go another 3 minutes, probably to right here where it kind of starts. See if this is it. So I think I'm not recording the video, or the audio on the track. I should have done that, but anyway, in my headphones, I hear the intro music and I hear the talking over the top. So then what I do to clean up the end here is typically we don't go quite as long as we did this episode. So typically we try to keep it to roughly an hour. So one thing I'll do is just because natural human voice is a little bit slow and methodical, I usually will just speed this up a little bit. There's a little speed thing here. Just like out of an hour, I'll drop a minute off, something like that. Usually not too significant, and just to keep the episodes sort of consistent in length. I know people listen to things on commutes, and then I'll lasso these music and sample clips, and I just grab these, drag these to the end, and that's it. And then I go, I do a minimum amount of production. Now this has taken a while to actually get to this point. So so one thing is on this track, we do have a number of oops. I don't know what is going on here. Oh, whoops, this is supposed to be up here. Oh, I have another track here for voicemails. So if we get voicemails from listeners, we throw that in there. So I have that clipped out separately so that we can properly cut it out and put it in, so we're not talking over our listener. So for our Uberconference track, I have a number of just some minor little tweaks to the sound quality, basically to level it out, cut out some of the noise, and just make us sound just slightly clearer to the listeners. Nothing major. All these things are very minor types of things. And then I just hit the export. Okay. So I do a multi-track export, entire session. And then the key here is I have a number of scripts that run automatically to do a lot of the publishing work for me. Now it's taken a long time to get some of these things set up, but I turn these markers off. I don't think there's any reason that the markers need to be in there for anything. And then I do change this. 56 is a little too low of a default. I usually put it up to 96 kilobits per second. A lot of podcasts will be at 128. No reason to do that. 96 is plenty, especially knowing that our source material is, basically not much better than a phone call, which is 56. And then the other thing to make sure to make note of is that it needs to be set to mono. We don't publish this in stereo. There's no reason. This isn't a music podcast. We're just talking, and mono gives a smaller file by half and better listening experience. So then we'll just hit OK, and it'll be published. I'm not going to do that for this particular one because my scripts will take over and publish this, and I'm not going to actually publish this just a quick run through. And I'm able to get this part done pretty quickly now, certainly in less than about a half hour in most cases. If we do have some voicemails, then it takes me a little bit longer, but still less than an hour. So that is pretty quick for me now, now that all those little pieces are set up. So I'm going to just not save this, quit out of it, and I'm going to show you the scripts that I use. which are a little bit of geekiness, but that's okay. So one thing I use, and this is all on a Mac, so I run a thing called Hazel, and for the Absolute Packer podcast, I convert and upload the Packer podcast. So what this does is this program Hazel looks at a particular file on my hard drive, and so in my Dropbox episodes, Absolute Packer, you can it will pull those files once there's a new file. It'll do something to them. So in this case, it runs a shell script, a program on it, and it adds a tag saying uploaded so that I don't run it again accidentally, right? If something happens, I don't want it to run again. So so I have this script, absolute.sh. So that actually sits in that same folder. So I'm going to go to my episodes folder, and I have a script right here, absolute.sh, and it does a whole bunch of things. Okay, and it looks really complicated. It's really not. So I have a program that does the YouTube uploading called YouTube Upload. I didn't make that. That's another program somebody else made. And then I'm doing a bunch of little conversions of some things to extract the name of the file name so that goes up as the YouTube name. And I'm then automatically publishing it to YouTube. So I convert it to a video. YouTube doesn't allow you to just upload audio files. Even though this is only audio, we have to add an image to it and make it into a video. So I run through that, upload it to YouTube. That's the first phase of the process. We get it up on YouTube really quickly. Then I upload the episodes to Amazon S3. That's where the podcast episodes sit. Then some real magic is I use some software called Keyboard Maestro, and I upload the episode to the absolutepacker.com site. So this will simulate keystrokes and mouse clicks. So it logs into the system, it adds an episode, so it'll add an episode, and it will fill in the title, it will change the summary. I don't have Jeremy in here yet. I keep forgetting to do that. And it leaves the description blank. That's something that I want to work on. It fills in the audio file with that Amazon S3 file. It sets the episode length, which is important so that you can fast forward. It sets the episode duration. Same thing. We need those things to be correct. So it gets those from the actual file, and then it uploads. And so what's left then is I have these other fields that have all the links to all of the places that you can listen to the podcast in a web browser. So let's just go back to here. So you see for this last episode, number 37, Dead Air, you can listen to the episode on iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Google Play, Player FM, TuneIn, and on YouTube. Okay, so let's say I wanted to listen to it on Overcast. I can just click on this, and it brings me right to the episode on Overcast. And if you're on an iOS device, which is where Overcast is an app that runs on the iPhone primarily, you can add this to Overcast and have it. You can set up subscription right in there for it. So it's kind of nice. So then after all of that automation is done, the episode is published here. It starts getting picked up. It creates what's called an RSS feed, and all of these services, except for YouTube, pick up that RSS feed. And sometime in the next few hours, they'll get a link on their services for the episode. So I can't immediately add these links. So what I usually do is I go back the next morning and I add all the links to everything. Usually I add the YouTube right away. I probably could add that to the automation. I have not done that yet. That is a good idea now that I think about it. All the other things, I manually add a link to the episode. So I go into all of the services. So I open all the players, open them all, boom. So it opens up all these services, and then one by one, I do manually do this because I want to make sure that the episodes did hit those services. I don't have a really good way of automating that yet. But then they all have different ways of getting the URL. So I copy that URL and I paste it in here. So that's a little bit of a manual process, but that I just boom, 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 go through all 6 of them, or seven of them. And it doesn't take long at all. So that is all of the publishing. The final note is I don't yet have a way to automatically get Jeremy's notes into our episodes. So I do have to manually, usually a few hours after initial publish or the next day, I go in, hit edit, and I copy and paste. Jeremy puts together a fantastic notes document that I really just copy paste. He gets all the credit for that. And I put those into the notes. So on most of the ways that you can listen to the episode, you'll have access to those notes, but they're always on the website. So whenever there's notes, they are on the website. And that is kind of that. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions about that, let me know. I love making podcasts, and I'd love to hear if that made any sense, or if anybody has any other detailed questions. So thanks for watching and listening.